What is the deal, beautiful people? It's your boy Ramon, Lifestyles Defined. Today's topic is street photography, what that is, what it means to you, what it means to me. Uh, Street photography is one of those genres that are well loved, that is well respected. Um, Very difficult to do, and I think it can be a bit ambiguous at times. It can mean very, very different things to many, many people. Me, particularly, street photography was when I started to take photography serious about 2 years ago, became easily and quickly became my first love. Now, when I say first love, I'm talking about in comparison to all the other genres of photography, portrait photography, composite stuff for the really creative people, landscape, macro. There's so much stuff out there to do. Event photography. For me, street photography was really what blew my mind, and it was easy. It's a very natural fit for me because I live in New York, and I work in Manhattan. I live in Brooklyn, so I have a commute, and it's something to be said for when you roll out of work and you had a really tense day. It's something to be said for to have an outlet to be able to just get out of work and take a half an hour or hour walk with your camera and really just capture the things that are going on in the best city in the world, right? So that made it so easy for me, and it made it so polarizing, and that's where I've been for a long time. And of course I do dabble, I've really been stepping my portrait game up now, and I'm getting into landscape, but street photography is still my love. And the thing about street photography is I think depending on who you ask, you get very different answers on what it is. So they're the snobs who will tell you, the street photography snobs who will tell you, you only need to shoot with you have to only shoot with a wide angle. You shoot on manual, and you only shoot people. You get in their face and you Bruce Gilden the shit out of them. You flash them. You invoke this crazy response, and you get these crazy images. That's okay. That's street photography as well. Street photography for me is actually sort of a mix of everything I would see in New York. So I can take pictures of people walking down the block. I can take pictures of the cabs and with landmarks. I can take pictures of the homeless people walking their dog, or sometimes I'll just take pictures of the cityscape in the Brooklyn Bridge Park down in Dumbo. And all of that to me is just lumped up into street photography because it's less of a rigidly defined genre and more of a state of mind for me. It's to me it's become this really, really effective outlet to not only express myself creatively, but to sort of just relieve stress of the day-to-day grind, and I love it. And anytime I hit the street with my camera, you best believe whatever I capture is street photography. I don't care what it is. So again, if you were to look up the the definition of street photography, you may get this very uniform, like this is what it is. But I believe that in today's world, there are a lot of genre bending things and events that happen, and you don't need to stick to what that formal definition is. So that's what street photography is to me. That's what it means to me. Now, in terms of how I shoot street photography, this is a question I've been asked by a lot of different people who've complimented me on my work, and they're feeling inspired. I've done the last 2 years have been an absolute grind, and if I didn't love street photography so much, I think it would be so hard to continue because it was a constant learning process. You just keep learning. You keep learning things about the camera. You keep learning things about composition. You keep learning things about light. And I think for me, the hardest to tackle was the technicalities of the camera and really understanding the exposure triangle, really understanding what it is, conceptually what it is I want to capture, how I want to capture, be in the right place at the right time, and actually be able to manipulate the camera in such a way that you are rewarded with your vision on that SD card. So that was very difficult to me. How I shoot street photography now these days, after going around 2 years worth of figuring out manual mode, the exposure triangle, and if you're that new and you don't know what the exposure triangle is, that's the dance between your shutter speed, your aperture, and your ISO. Uh, you would not believe the amount of variation that and almost limitless possibilities that happen within that triangle, right? And even down to the way you set it is so important. And some days, what I would change would be what I want to capture is motion based. Other days it's detail based, and that all plays a huge part in how I physically or technically capture images. So in today, I find myself shooting a lot of aperture priority. I'll do aperture priority usually around f8, and I'll have my ISO set to auto ISO. So the reason I chose f8 is because by and large in the photography community, there are nerds who are much smarter than me and who did the math. And just by the sheer science of it, f8 is usually the sharpest part of your lens. And I've in my adventures today, I've been very fond of capturing entire scenes and telling an entire story. It took me a while to develop that and really understand that that's what I want to do. So I'll use aperture priority and f8. So on aperture priority, I tell the camera what aperture I would set it at, f8, and the camera worries about all the other stuff. And that's been, it's interesting to see the difference in concept across the board. So on my Sony A7 Mark II, running this aperture f8 setting usually gets me wildly different images than on my Olympus EM10 Mark II. And I think it's dope. That's why I love owning different cameras. And I think it's this I don't know how to explain it. It's this really dope feeling that what tool do I want to use today? Because all of my tools give me a different artistic vision, and I know that now, and it came from this long journey of really identifying what I want to be my style. Now, I said auto ISO. The reason I shoot auto ISO, and for those of you who don't know, auto ISO is this super convenient feature that you find on most of these new cameras. Based on the first two settings, the camera, and by settings I mean aperture and shutter, the camera will then fill in what ISO it thinks it should use. But the good thing about it is you actually set that range of ISO. So the camera is automatically selecting what ISO to use, but you tell it, listen, I want you to use ISO 200 to 3200. Because I know specifically on my Olympus, if I go up to 6400, the noise that I will get is unmanageable. I don't want it. So I always tell my camera, you do not go past 3200. So between 3200 at the max if it's a low light scene, and f8, which is already not the widest of apertures, so I'm not really letting that much light in, the camera will sort of just adjust the shutter speed to help me get the right exposure. And I think that's an invaluable tool, very, very valuable tool. And a lot of people, I think, should really make use of that. And of course, on the street, things change, conditions change. You go into the sun and the shade, and there's more lights over here than there is over there. So it's the auto ISO really helps me take time away from, or take time back to to getting my composition right and worrying about the story I'm trying to tell, as opposed to fiddling around with the settings in the camera. So I really do appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, some days, if it's a lot of daylight out, if I get out of work early enough or we go out on the weekend, sometimes I'll shoot shutter priority and I'll go up to maybe about 250, 320th of a second where I can freeze motion. Or if I want motion, I'll bring it down to like 1/110th. So endless amounts of possibilities there, but I very rarely do my street photography in manual. Now, I want to be very clear, you should still learn to use manual because that is really and truly the only way to understand your camera. And now that I understand my camera, I know why I need aperture priority or shutter. So yeah, there's definitely some dopeness there to these. I don't know if they call them manual modes. I've heard so much arguments about that the shutter priority, aperture priority are manual modes. Interesting. What I've also learned in street photography is patience. You know, you have to develop an eye. You have to develop this spider sense where, you know, you see a scene and you go, wow, this is dope. This is dope. I want this. You like the mood of the shot. You like the composition of the shot. And now you just need to wait for a person, because this is how the human brain works. And I've been doing so much research on this the last 6 months. Landscapes, street photography scenes, all of these things are super dope. But if you put a person in it, if you put a human being in your shot, it makes it so much more interesting. It gives it this instant story. And that's what I've been doing in the last few months, is really trying to tell that story. And I've been really patient when I find a scene. You know, of course, I'll walk up and oh, this is dope. Boom, 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 boom. Get it. And then I'll hang back and say, okay, now how can I get this? How can I capture this moment even better? How can I make it stand out even more? So there's that, you know, hang out for a few seconds, a few minutes, just chill. You know, and I understand not everyone's in New York where people are constantly walking around, but exercise patience and you will be rewarded. It is something that has rewarded me very handsomely. One of the things I've been getting into is long lenses. I just probably a week ago I purchased the 45 millimeter for my Olympus. And my God, what a sharp lens, what a dope lens. And of course, you know, the crop factor, because it's a micro four thirds. Oh, it's right here actually. Because it's a micro four thirds, the crop factor means we have to multiply the focal length by 2. So in all actuality, this is a 90 millimeter lens, 1.8, and it's very cropped and very zoomed in. The reason I like to walk around with this, one, it's a fast lens, so I can stop it down to 1.8 and really let in a lot of light at night and still get a high shutter speed. And it's very sharp when it's stopped all the way down, so that I think is nice about this lens. But I like the idea of street portraits. And, you know, let's be real here. I'm a black man in America, and I'm a pretty big dude. I have an intimidating demeanor if you don't know me. So it's in my best interest not to walk up to people and stick my camera in their face. A long lens gives me that versatility to sort of capture the person's character, capture their facial expressions from a safe enough distance, right? And that's something that I've been toying with, and I'm really liking the results of street portraits. And of course, you know, there's still the wide angle that many people like because you get to tell the story. Some people even prefer fish angles and that distortion that you get when shooting fish angle lenses. But, you know, all in all, I think there's so many different ways to shoot street photography. When I look back at a lot of my old pictures, my style has changed. The way I tell stories changed. The composition changed. Even though I'm shooting with the same equipment, I think it's really cool. So I'm definitely growing as a photographer. But yeah, I mean, street photography continues to be super dope to me. Continues to be my favorite. It continues to be one of my outlets of relieving stress. It continues to give me this cognitive flow. You know, there's nothing like walking the street with your camera and you're in the zone. You just feel it and you just boom, 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 and every time. And then sometimes you just go out and you're like, man, I'm going home. There are days like that where it's just like you just can't get a good shot to save your life, and there's seemingly nothing going on in the streets. So yeah, there's that, and I just wanted to share that story with you because a lot of people have been asking, "Oh man, I love your work. Can you give me some tips? Can you talk about it? Your inspirations, yada yada yada." So this video is for you guys. Thank you so much for stopping by. Please like the video if you like it. Subscribe to the channel, help the channel grow. Maybe you're not familiar. This channel is part of a bigger network, Lifestyles Defined. All the links to our other channels are down in the description. Well, we have a tech channel, we have a gaming channel, we've got some sneakers going on. There's a lot that we do here, and we really are excited to try to grow this photography channel and learn as photographers with you guys. So we would greatly appreciate it if you subscribe and grow with us. My name is Ramon. I'm out of here. Peace. If I had to describe Lifestyles Defined, I would say it is a dream come true to have a platform where we can talk about the things that we love, and we can share with people who also love the things we love the way we love, and just have conversations that matter and go back and forth and grow as a community. It's been a pleasure. It's been a dream, and I just want to thank everyone that's involved for rocking out with us.
From the deep forest into the sun.